France's role in Africa is problematic because of the extent to which it continued to engage and meddle with politics and economics of its former colonial territories after independence. Niger has faced political instability and coup attempts throughout its post-independence history, with periods of military rule interspersed with civilian rule. In 2010s, the country had a coup where the president was overthrown by military. In 2023, the country recorded another coup, and the military has taken over the country once more. The coup this time is different because junta has heaped lots of accusations against France, including giving the France ambassador an ultimatum to leave the country within 48 hours. France's role in Africa is problematic because of the extent to which it continued to engage and meddle with politics and economics of its former colonial territories after independence. At one point in time, a whole 72 countries were colonies of France. It is interesting to talk about France in Africa in the 21st century. But let's go down the memory lane for a moment. During the last century, France expanded its colonial empire in Africa. It was part of the European scramble for Africa in the late century, where European powers rapidly colonized much of the African continent. France gained control of vast territories, including Tunisia, Morocco, Algeria, and parts of West and Central Africa. Algeria was colonized in the 1830s, leading to a long and brutal conflict with the local population. After the Second World War, France granted some of its former colonies independence in Africa. However, in 21st century France's colonial legacy has remained controversial, with critics accusing it of meddling in former countries' culture, language, and governance structures, which has led to exploitation of local communities, violence, and enduring socioeconomic disparities, which continue to be sources of tension and debate in France and its former colonies. Most countries in West and Central Africa have remained unhappy, and here is why. France, like other former colonial powers, has faced accusations related to neocolonialism in its relationships with former colonies. It has been accused of unequal trade agreements, preferential access to resources such as uranium, and the dominance of French companies in key sectors, leading to economic exploitation. The economic exploitation is also accompanied by currency control, consisting of the CFA franc currency, which is controlled by France Treasury. It is the most used currency in several countries: Benin, Burkina Faso, Ivory Coast, Guinea-Bissau, Mali, Niger, Senegal, and Togo. The CFA franc that I have just listed is also referred as West African CFA franc. There's also the Central African CFA franc, which is officially used by 6 countries in Central Africa: Cameroon, Central African Republic, Chad, Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, and Gabon. As if this is not enough, France has been accused for creating debt dependencies among their former colonies. It gives loans and financial assistance to former colonies with conditions that only favor its interests as a lender, while keeping former colonies in a debt cycle. To ensure loyalty, France has continued to maintain a significant military presence in most of its former colonies, which is said in quotes as being important to ensure cooperation and stability. But most critics claim that it is used to effectively ensure control and influence in the country's internal affairs. To be specific, critics have implied that France ensures it keeps the leaders that align with its policy objectives in power. An example is a country like Cameroon, which is allegedly led by one of its favorite political leader, Paul Biya, the longest-serving president in the world, and one who is too old to lead Cameroonians. France has exerted cultural influence and presence by ensuring French culture and media are strongly felt among the citizens of its former colonies. Overall, France's approach to its former colonies in Africa has been a subject of ongoing debate and discussion, both within France and among African nations and international observers. There have been calls for changes in the way France engages with its former colonies in Africa, particularly in the areas of economic cooperation, political influence, and cultural ties. Whether or not France will change its strategy in engaging with its former colonies in Africa is indeed something that remains to be seen. To be fair, France has gone through periods of reassessment and adjustment in its relationships with African nations, and these relationships are evolving over time. Although not significant, their impact is yet to be felt. But one thing is for sure, political and public opinion within France and in African nations play significant roles in shaping the direction of these changes.